Hi friends, it's me, Catherine. Welcome to another edition of Garden2TableTV. Today we will be learning how to prune a plum tree. Not just any plum tree, but an elephant heart plum. My favorite kind. They're very big and juicy and so sweet and shaped like a heart and deep purple, and they're just spectacular. They take a little bit of patience because they take a little bit longer to come to full fruition, but let me tell you, they're worth the wait. This particular tree is named Alan, after my dear friend Alan, who passed away about a year and a half ago after a very long and fulfilling life in music and film. Fortunately, he did get to meet his tree before he left us. But one thing that Alan used to say every day to anybody who would ask, "How are you, Alan?" he would say, "Best day of my life so far." So as we move into our day of pruning and weeding and everything else you're doing in your home gardens and orchards, let's remember, best day of our life so far. How lucky are we to get to live outside in nature, working on all our free time out with our beloved plants and trees. We never know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we do have today. So let's make the most of it, and we'll get right into the middle of this plum tree and show you how it's done. We're getting up close here to the fruiting spurs so you can see what they look like before we start pruning this plum tree. These fruiting spurs will be producing for us year after year, so we're going to be very careful not to knock them off or bump them with our ladder while we're working around this tree. The fruiting spurs can be found almost anywhere on a plum tree. They do take 2 or 3 years to develop, so you're not usually going to see them on, of course, the 1-year growth. See, there's some more fruiting spurs. Again, we're going to be going into this tree. We're going to be looking for all the branches that are crisscrossed and cockeyed, and we're going to be cleaning those out first. We're going to be removing extra shoots. This tree could have a little more airiness to it. It's getting kind of a little claustrophobic in there. Now see up at the top here, these 3 or 4 feet of shoots going up, that's all last year's growth. So that's all 1 year of growth going up there in the air. In a plum tree under 10 years old, the rule of thumb is you bring those back 2/3 to 3/4 where you chop off. You bring them back that far down to where they came out of the top of the tree the previous year. On a tree 10 years or older, you actually bring those shoots all the way back to where they came from, because of course we want to keep the trees a manageable height so that we can safely prune them on the ladder. I've let this tree get a little bit taller than I should have. I'm just in love with it. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful tree. It's one of my favorite stone fruit trees in the orchard for its beauty. My heart got a little ahead of me here, and I let this tree get big enough that it's challenging to prune and kind of on the verge of being unsafe. Now here is the elephant heart plum after I finished pruning it. You see it's quite cleaned out. Oh, I see one branch I need to take off there that crossed. But it's much more cleaned out. We've removed all the dead wood, all the branches that are crisscrossed, and we've made some space there, but at the same time we've been very careful not to bump off all of these fruiting spurs, so that we should get a nice harvest here on this tree this year. We're very excited to show you what it looks like when it flowers. It's such a spectacular flowering tree, so we'll look forward to showing you that very soon. So there's the after of the Alan, the elephant heart plum tree. I did leave him a little bit higher than I could have, but we did take off 2 or 3 feet off the top of him. So there is Alan with his new haircut. Now on the other side of our elephant heart plum, we've got a Burgundy plum. It's a beautiful tree also, very, very prolific Burgundy plum, just thousands of fruits. And you can very easily see all the fruiting spurs here on the Burgundy plum. And this plum tree has that characteristic upright growth pattern of the plum, a lot of the varietals anyway. And just look at all these fruiting spurs. So when we prune this tree, you can see we worked very carefully around to not bump these guys off, and they are going to be producing fruit for us year after year. And right next to the Burgundy is a green gauge plum. This one's a little younger, but actually it's been very slow to grow. I think it's got to be at least 4 years old now, and maybe 5. And for the very first time, we have our first fruiting spurs on this slow growing green gauge plum. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any fruit. I'm crossing my fingers. I'd so like to try a green gauge plum. This is a tree named Melissa. It's actually a 4-way graft. So 4 different varieties on it. We call her Melissa, after our friend Melissa. And you can see here also, of course, the fruiting spurs that we were very careful not to knock off. And this tree is also very prolific. All 4 of the varieties really produce heavily. So here you can see. Anyway, this tree is all pruned up. You can see that we actually clipped off almost all the 1-year growth. We really brought this tree back a couple feet. So because we just didn't need any more height on it. So took everything back almost to where it started. Those were the long whips that we removed. Anyway, that sums up our episode of plum tree pruning. And of course, same holds true for prune trees. The difference is in the sugar content in the fruit, but not in the pruning of the tree. All right, we'll see you back here soon for another episode of Garden to Table TV.